Hey guys, Chris with the Trek here. We're doing a review of the Warbonnet Superfly Tarp. It's a winter 4-season tarp with doors. And so we're going to go around and look at the temperature and see if we're quite in winter review territory yet. There it is, 32 degrees. It's a little cooler earlier, but I'm experiencing the same cold weather that everyone in the southeast here. So let's take a look at the Superfly Tarp. Here's the tarp. I got the 20D version of the Seal Poly. It also comes in a little bit heavier 30D version, but I got this version because it's lighter and that's what we're looking for. Got the evergreen color. The dimensions on the tarp are 11-foot ridge line and 10 foot in width. Come around to the outside of the tarp. Come down and look at the tie out here. They have a little piece of gross grain here. The stitching on top, nice 1-inch D-rings on the corner so you can do a tie out. Of course, right here is my line tensioner that I use on all my tarps. I'd recommend putting them on these too if you wanted to. And with the Superfly, these nice doors on the end to prevent any wind or blowing rain from it. You can actually get them all the way closed if you want to. I just have them set up like this for demonstration purposes. With door management on the ends, there are a few different options. You can always bring 2 stakes and stake out each corner individually. You can get all kinds of weird angles going on here. But from Warbonnet's website, the picture of the tarp, they provide these little carabiners here, this little blue thing, and you can clip both of them in here and just stake it in the ground like that. And that way, you can unhook one door at a time. So let's say you want to go in, just unhook that guy, walk on in, and then once you get inside, you just clip it back. So we'll go around to the other side, talk about another thing you can do to manage the doors, keep them closed while you're in there taking a snooze. On this, what we have done and what I normally do is a little tip I got from Adventure Allen. You guys should look him up about tarp door management. Is right here we have a little piece of shock cord. I think this is 1/16. I got it off Amazon. It's really cheap. And then we have a little buckle right here that I use for each side. And this is pretty useful because you set it up like this and you can just pull the buckle off and then walk over the other line and get on in and then put the buckle back in from the inside. But also with these buckles, you set them up opposite. So you could take the doors and put them all the way up on each end and have the female and the male buckle and connect. And then you have something that can keep your doors pulled up. Because this tarp doesn't have a little piece of fabric here for rolling the doors if you wanted to have them up. Also with a tarp this big, as you can see on this side, when the wind gets up a little bit, it's going to have a tendency to want to push the middle of it in. And as you guys know, when you're sleeping, if the tarp's hitting you in the face, it's not going to be comfortable. So what you can do is, if you're not going on a long hike, Warbonnet makes a nice pole mod kit, which is basically a little tent pole, and the pole goes across the top right here, and you take this side, you just pull it up with the tension that the pole is going to put right there. But as thru hikers, we're not carrying extra tent poles, so we're going to have to use what we have. And what we have, some of us, are trekking poles. And so on this other side here, what I've done is I've set up the trekking pole to pull out and pull up this side to keep it away from me while I'm sleeping. I sleep left or right, so my head is going to be on this side right here. Feet are going to be pointed over there. What I use is some Zing-It. I attach it to this pull out, wrapped it around my trekking pole, and then tied it on the other side, and I came down and sticked it out down here. And what you'll ask when you see this is, does this really create a lot more space by pulling it out with the trekking pole? And we're going to go inside and answer that question now. Go to our little buckle. All right. Now here, we're looking at the side with the trekking pole that has the side pulled out, and you can see that it creates quite a bit more room than the other side over here, which doesn't have the trekking pole in, just for comparison purposes. As you can see inside this tarp, there's plenty of space on the side This is going to keep any kind of, wind or blowing rain from getting to you in your hammock or soaking your stuff. I really like this. You guys can see in here, this is an 11-foot hammock, which is a pretty standard size. And you got the underquilt here, and there's a lot of room on each side for your gear. Anything you want to keep in here, basically there's a lot of room for it on each side, even if you don't have your trekking pole pulling out the side. But I do recommend that with a tarp with this much material, because if not, it's going to blow in, and that's going to end up hitting you while you're sleeping. So with any tarp, you see all this coverage and you say, it's good in the rain and the wind. Well, I personally tested it here around the area that is rolling hills farmland, so that means there's basically no windbreak. The night I tested it, the winds got up to about 12-15 miles an hour, and the tarp held up really well. I don't see any distress in the stitching from the 12-mile-an-hour steady, and maybe gusts of about 15-18 mile an hour. So it was really good in the wind. And then it rained for a few hours, and I didn't see any rain on the ridgeline area, which you don't have to seal. Only place I saw a little bit of dripping was right here from the side pullouts. You have to seal these yourself. So I'm assuming that I missed a little bit of area right here, and I need to go back and reseal it. But that's something that when you buy this tarp, you will have to do, and you have to make sure it's right. Sometimes it's an iterative process. But with me, I'm gonna have to reseal it one more time just to make sure it's nice and watertight. Again, we talked about the ridgeline. A unique feature on the Warbonnet tarp is you don't have to seam seal the ridgeline yourself. Go on their website, take a look at what they do. They have a unique design. You don't have to seal the ridgeline, so that means there's no chance of you not sealing it right and it possibly getting you wet, the first or second time you use it in the rain. So that's a really good option for this tarp. Another thing this tarp did is they got rid of the traditional backing material you would use on the corners and then put a narrow piece of grosgrain, and they took a thicker piece of grosgrain and put it right here and sewed it directly to the tarp material. That cuts down on weight. Just the tarp only weighs 18 ounces. So that's a little bit much for a thru hiker, but that's what it weighs for the sil poly material to get all this coverage. When you go and rig the tarp, like I did, I put the lines, I got 6 stakes. I don't use 8 stakes because I'm not gonna stake out both doors. So for my 6 stakes, I got the 4 corners and then the stakes that are gonna be holding the pullouts out. And then if you need more, like say for instance, the first one used a blue carabiner, you'll need 8 stakes. With 6 stakes and the rigging for what I have now, it weighed in at about 22 ounces for the tarp, which is pretty good. All right, we're gonna go back outside, look at the tarp a little bit more. We're back outside with the tarp, and so we're going to talk about some of the pros of this tarp. The first pro is coverage. You have 11-foot ridgeline by 10-foot width that provides plenty of coverage for an 11-foot hammock. You can get yourself in there, you can put all your gear in there, and you can be out of the weather and your gear will not get wet. Second pro on this tarp is the craftsmanship. Like you see here, look at some of the stitching. All the stitching for this tarp is really good. I didn't see any issues on the stitching that I looked at. And the third pro for this tarp is price. It's pretty reasonably priced. I think this one is $160 compared to other tarps that are going to be lighter, but you're going to pay double the price for, like say a Cuban fiber option. And then we walk into one of the cons, which of course we just talked about, is weight. So at 18 ounces with no rigging, and then when you add your rigging and stakes it goes up to 22 ounces. It's adding quite a bit of weight to, say, like we talked about a minute ago, the lighter option, say Cuban fiber, which a whole setup with 6 stakes on that weighs probably about 12.5 ounces. So that's something you're gonna have to consider. But for the money, this Warbonnet tarp is a great option, provides a lot of coverage. The weight is pretty good compared to other tarps with this same coverage due to some of the design things that we talked about, like the corner tie-outs and things like that. But this is the Warbonnet Superfly tarp. I encourage you guys to go over to their website, which I'm going to link below, and check out this tarp and consider it an option for your thru hike. Thanks.